Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex discussion. Today, I want to talk to you guys about why everyone's favorite sussy baka has now begun to start sounding the alarm bells for everyone who's been reading the Boruto story, because Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 18, it has really ramped things up in terms of the Amado situation. While in the community, Amado's been a hot button topic where people either believe he is a sincere father trying to revive his daughter, and he just happens to have been someone unfortunate enough to hit roadblock after roadblock when trying to bring her back to life as she originally was. And then you have people such as myself who started questioning him from the very moment he started speaking to Naruto and Shikamaru. Just who is this guy really? And we believe that he was anything except for a normal scientist, which led to multiple rabbit holes being explored throughout the years. From Amado is Otsutsuki to Amado is Shibai reincarnated to Amado is one of the two missing Otsutsuki, or he's the Otsutsuki who Shibai ate in order to become an Otsutsuki god, to Amado is the Naruto versus version of the Beyonder, which my fellow comic book heads, you understand that reference and why I say that. Some of these are understandably all the way out there, like they're way out there, and others, they have their merit, and others are in the it's so simple that it might very well be true, which is that one being Amado's just a brilliant scientist who has hit a bout of bad luck in his attempt to play God to revive his daughter, and it's just fitting into the overall character arc for him, which is him not understanding how to accept the trauma and the grief that comes from losing his daughter because of how big of a theme parenthood was in Boruto Part 1. That's why in today's newest Naruto Explain video, we're going to be taking a look at why Amado's actions in the last chapter might very well have sounded the alarm for Amado not being the person who we had been led to believe that he is. Which also, if you've not seen the new chapter review, I'll leave it in the end credits to this video as well, is in the description box for your convenience. So we're going to first explore Amado's potential as an Otsutsuki in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. So Amado Sanzu, the enigmatic scientist that was introduced in Boruto Naruto Next Generations. He is a character that is rife with mysteries, particularly concerning his motives and knowledge and unrelenting pursuit of reviving his daughter Akebei Sanzu. It's my hope that we can dive into the narrative and thematic implications of Amado potentially being connected to the Otsutsuki clan. We're going to acknowledge and examine his advanced knowledge and technology, his manipulation of Kawaki, potential links to Kashin Koji's 10 Directions Shinjutsu, and the possibility of Amado altering himself with Otsutsuki DNA. Additionally, we're going to explore the Japanese folklore and Buddhist symbolism that might inform more about Amado's characterization, including his last name Sanzu and the connection to the river of the Japanese afterlife. So Amado's advanced knowledge and technology is what we have to first crack the first layer of. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence suggesting Amado's connection to the Otsutsuki is his unparalleled knowledge in their biology, their technology, their history, and the whole karma system itself. Throughout the entire series, Amado, he has consistently demonstrated a severe depth of understanding that shocks even the Otsutsuki themselves. Classic example being Momoshiki, a being who has lived for over a millennia. He acknowledges that Amado's knowledge is vast, though he does make it a point to say that Amado's knowledge is incomplete, evident by the fact that he didn't know what the true nature of Ada's power was, thinking that it was the power to control hearts when it was really omnipotence, and she was controlling hearts because that was her heart's desire, which is how she used omnipotence in the first place. The Otsutsuki connection to Amado's knowledge is another thing we have to look at in this topic. Amado's technological prowess is leagues above anything previously seen in the Naruto universe. Even noted geniuses like Katasuke, who are viewed to be leaps and bounds above all the other shinobi experts out there, they pale in comparison to him. From his ability to create a clone of his daughter, make her into a cyborg Delta who is capable of matching Naruto Uzumaki and Taijutsu in battle, to making a separate clone of Jiraiya in the form of Kashin Koji, who possess incredible power that completely dwarfs anything that Jiraiya was capable of, to augmenting normal human beings like Code and making them into these super powerful cyborgs. Amado's intentions, they defy conventional human methods and limitations. His ability to genetically reverse re-engineer karma seals, basically reverse engineer Otsutsuki technology itself, evident by the fact when he was able to tamper with Kawaki's implanted karma seal, it showcases an almost intrinsic understanding of Otsutsuki systems themselves. This raises a question. How could Amado do that? Could he be an Otsutsuki himself, or someone who has undergone the Otsutsuki genetic modifications? One possibility is that Amado's familiarity with Otsutsuki technology stems from direct experience. If Amado were Otsutsuki in disguise, or had transplanted Otsutsuki DNA into himself, it would explain how he could intuitively understand and manipulate their systems. His determination to revive Akebei might also suggest a personal understanding of Otsutsuki immortality methods, such as their reliance on the karma seals for resurrection. I don't think that Ishiki was speaking through Jigen and just dumping all this information into Amado. Based on everything we've seen with Ishiki, he's someone who only tells you as much as you need to know. Amado seems to have more information than Ishiki ever calculated for. The manipulation of Kawaki, in particular exploiting vulnerabilities, basically gaslight Amado, is another layer that you have to look at. Amado's manipulation of Kawaki, it is a masterclass of psychological control, and that also fits into why we have to consider this possibility he has other motives and why he might have been playing Kawaki from the start. Kawaki, who has experienced a traumatic childhood under the abusive care of Jigen and Ishiki and Kara, he has found solace and fatherly love in Naruto Uzumaki. This bond, it became the cornerstone of Kawaki's moral compass, making him fiercely protective of Naruto, which then, coupled with his consequentialist nature, caused Kawaki to cross several moral lines. Lines that, ironically, Naruto never would have agreed to cross. Amado exploited this vulnerability to achieve his ends. The emotional manipulation, that is the biggest part of this. Amado's calculated behavior, playing on the role of a grieving father, it allowed him to emotionally manipulate Kawaki. He framed his quest to revive Akebei as an act of love, resonating with Kawaki's own yearning for familial connection. Even though Kawaki's saying, hey, I'm going to kill your daughter, blah, 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 to Kawaki, Amado's big sob story, on some level, it still resonates because he is looking at the type of father he's never had, a father who cares. Naruto is a pseudo-father, but Kawaki's biological father never cared for him. Even when Kawaki expressed his concerns about the potential dangers in reviving Akebei, Amado's persistence and emotional appeals, it kept Kawaki subconsciously entangled in his plans. You also have Momoshiki's prior warning to Kawaki about Amado's potential ulterior motives. It underscores the scientist's manipulative prowess, which Kawaki has failed to recognize due to his own emotional blind spots, especially the biggest blind spot known as Naruto Uzumaki. The thematic parallels are there. Amado's exploitation of familiar bonds, it mirrors a central theme in Boruto, the lengths that parents and children will go to for themselves and for each other, in particular, the lengths that a parent will go through for a child. Naruto's refusal to harm Boruto during the threat of Momoshiki's takeover, it parallels Amado's willingness to do anything, even manipulate Kawaki to bring back Akebei. One was trying to stop their child from dying, the other one's trying to bring them back from death. This thematic resonance, it deepens the moral ambiguity of Amado's character, positioning him as a dark reflection of Naruto's parental devotion. You also have to factor in Kashin Koji's 10 direction and the potential that Amado's managed to evade it to a degree. So Kashin Koji, the clone of Jiraiya, wields the power of 10 directions. It is a fragment of Shibai Otsutsuki's Ten Directions ability, because all the car inners were transplanted with Shibai's DNA. They're able to use it, and yet at the same time, the power they're using is only part of what somebody like Shibai was able to do, the original awakener of those powers. This allows him to see multiple possible futures. Again, possible futures. Not all of these futures exist. Once certain decisions are made, those futures cease to exist. They never took place, but Kashin Koji retains the information about what transpired. However, Amado's plans, they have consistently remained outside of Kashin Koji's foresight. This discrepancy suggests that Amado has taken deliberate steps to shield himself from Kashin Koji's visions, raising questions about how he achieved such a feat. The Buddhist symbolism in Ten Directions, it is right in your face if you know where to look. In Buddhist teaching, Ten Directions, the ability to foresee multiple possible futures, is often associated with the concept of the same name, representing knowledge across all spatial and temporal dimensions. However, Buddhism also warns against the dangers of possessing such knowledge, emphasizing that knowing the future, it can lead to arrogance and attachment, and ultimately clouding judgment. For as perfect as Kashin Koji has been so far in wanting to stick to a singular role, that is also arrogance. I know best. Trust what I am saying. That is a form of arrogance that goes against what Buddhism teaches. Kashin Koji having a reliance on Ten Directions derived from Shibai's power may inherently be limited because it is a fragment rather than the full scope of Shibai's power. Amato also has the potential to have escaped from Ten Directions' foresight. So Amato's ability to evade Kashin Koji's visions might stem from his own ties to the Otsutsuki or his advanced technological capabilities. If Amado is the one that implanted Ten Directions into Kashin Koji, and if he is the one who has potentially incorporated Otsutsuki DNA into himself, he could potentially exist outside the scope of Kashin Koji's foresight, as his actions may not align with the natural flow of events that Kashin Koji's power can perceive. That is the key. We know that Ten Directions can see the futures of Otsutsuki, but we also know there is a blind spot with Ten Directions. Kashin Koji has told us that if people act in a way, knowingly or unknowingly, that goes against what he's seen, it creates new branches and it makes everything that Kashin Koji has used Ten Directions for absolutely useless. Amado's understanding of Ten Directions and knowing that Kashin Koji might have awakened that power, it might allow him to exploit those blind spots in Koji's visions, crafting plans that fall outside the predetermined pathways visible to Koji. Boruto's words are words that Amado would have picked up on. This is a potential outcome that you would have figured out yourself, and I'm helping you find it sooner. Someone like Amado would be able to hear that and say, oh my god, that's Ten Directions. You also have the genetic alteration and the themes of parental sacrifice to look at. Amado's obsession with reviving Akebei, it raises the possibility that he might have altered himself genetically, perhaps using Otsutsuki DNA as a last-ditch effort to ensure her revival. This will align with the series' themes of parental sacrifice and defying logic for the sake of one's children. This parallels again Naruto and Boruto. Naruto's refusal to harm Boruto during Momoshiki's takeover reflects a parent's willingness to defy reason to protect their child. Very similarly, Amado's potential genetic modification, it underscores his own desperation to save Akebei, even at the cost of his own humanity. If he's willing to cross the lines, he's done. Can we really put it above him to have experimented on his own body with Otsutsuki DNA? Ada did tell us in part 1 that Amado had modified himself. In particular, he had modified his eyes. This narrative parallel deepens the moral complexity of Amado's character, presenting him both as a sympathetic character as well as a morally ambiguous character. And given the fact that he's already experimented on himself before, we know he's not above doing it again. This gets even deeper when you look into the Japanese folklore and yokai inspirations that are centered around Amato's character. There are some that I've talked about in a much longer video on the Amado Otsutsuki connection that we made years ago. I want to say in 2020. Don't use that editor anymore, but I'm not going to use that one because there are a couple of others that really, given the additional context we have about Amato now, really line up with his characterization. So Amato's characterization may draw from Japanese folklore, particularly yokai that are associated with deception and body snatching. One such yokai is Nopera Bo, which is a faceless spirit that deceives humans by taking on the appearance of loved ones. This mirrors Amato's manipulation of Kawaki through his portrayal as being a grieving father. Another relevant yokai that we have is Kudanuki, which is a shape-shifting badger known for tricking humans and taking over their homes. Amato's ability to infiltrate organizations like KAR and manipulate individuals, it mirrors that yokai's deceptive nature. And if you go back to how Amato described Kawaki using Ishiki's power, he described Kawaki's body as being a home, and that Kawaki just needed a key to access the power that was left behind in that home, the power being Ishiki's power inside of Kawaki. Then when you get into the Sanzu River, that's something that if you're a longtime viewer of the channel, you've heard me say this before. Amato's last name, Sanzu, it directly references the Sanzu River, a Buddhist concept that is analogous to the river Styx in Greek mythology. So if you're more familiar with Greek mythology, then you know where this is going. So the Sanzu River, it separates the world of the living from the afterlife, and souls, they must cross it after they die. The symbolic connection, it underscores Amato's role as being a boundary crosser, someone who navigates the realms of life and death, human and Otsutsuki, in his quest to revive Akebei. The Sanzu River's association with judgment, limbo, in particular Jizo, and karma, it reflects the moral ambiguity of Amato's actions as he continuously blurs the lines between righteousness and selfishness, making this another interesting layer to his character. In conclusion, Amato's character in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, it is a multifaceted enigma, potentially tied into the Otsutsuki through his advanced knowledge, his technological prowess, and possible genetic alterations. His manipulation of Kawaki, the evasion of Kashin Koji's 10 directions, and parallels to Japanese folklore and Buddhist symbolism, it paints a picture of a man that is driven by desperation and love for his daughter. Whether he is an Otsutsuki in disguise, or a human altered by their DNA, or simply a mad genius that has a hidden agenda, Amato remains one of the most compelling and morally ambiguous figures that we have in the series, embodying the themes of parental sacrifice, deception, and the blurred boundaries between humanity and divinity. Which obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and clicking here to check out the chapter review, or clicking here to check out this video for my Anime Explained channel where I talk about non-Naruto content.